Welcome everyone to the Learning Cycle module on Reading with Phonics for the month of November, being presented under the District Education Transformation Program 2025-26 in collaboration with Diet Davangere and Caring with Color. The teacher handbook will contain the chapters assigned for each month according to the DSCRT curriculum calendar, along with the resources available on Teachopia for all the chapters of grades 4 to 7 in the form of lesson plans, worksheets, PBLs, and explainer videos for all the teachers to make use of during the upcoming academic year. The year is divided into 7 months. Each month is dedicated to one methodology of executing an activity. We will be guiding you all while you design activities in your classrooms using these approaches. Let's take a look at these approaches, keeping FLN requirements in mind. Welcome to this session on Reading with Phonics for Beginners. Today, we are going to dive into one of the most fundamental and effective ways to equip our young learners with the skills they need to become confident readers. Remember, we are going to help them to move from learning to read to reading to learn. Phonics. What is phonics? Phonics is a method of teaching that involves reading and writing. So we can use, hear, and identify individual sounds. Thus, phonics is a methodology that helps us teach learners how to identify letters with their sounds, combine them to read and write words, thus helping them to read and write sentences and any text in English. What are the goals of phonics? It is to first understand the relationship between sounds and letters. They are quite distinct but related. It is to enable the learners to hear, identify, and use different sounds, not just different letters, but their individual unique sounds. It is also to help the learner to distinguish one word from another, each with its distinct sound and meaning. It is also to combine individual sounds to read words. How does meaning making happen? By first putting the word together and their individual sound. It is also to recognize common phonic patterns like CVC. Coming to FLN in phonics. How is that accomplished? Or what is it going to help us accomplish? It is going to help us use phoneme segmentation and activities, wherein phonemes are separated for the learner's understanding and categorized too. They will also include games and activities to keep it interesting and engaging. We will also try and practice identifying the beginning, middle, and end of the sounds of words. Each word with its multiple sounds will be divided and identified separately. We will also try and see how we can teach letter-sound correspondence in stages, because it is important for learners to separate the symbol and the sound and yet draw parallels. Last but not the least, we will try to accommodate varied learning abilities by empowering children to choose their learning. What does this mean? Learners with their different unique styles of learning will be able to learn phonics in their own way, which will in turn help us assess and cater to their different capabilities and give them scores accordingly. Thus, the activities that we have chosen for today's module is from grades 4, 5, and 6, 7. Under grade 5, we will have word chains, hopscotch, and clapping syllables as activities. Under grade 4, we will have ping pong phonics. Under grade 6, we will have an activity called the letter labels. And under grade 7, we will have something called the magic spoon. These activities progress in complexity, moving from basic sound and letter recognition to more advanced word formation and contextual application. They have elements of foundational literacy like being child-centric, experiential, differentiation, multisensorial, etc.
The activity word chains is designed with learning objectives in mind. It divides the objectives into two categories, beginner level and advanced level. This allows the teacher to address the varied needs of the students. The objectives tailor the activity to meet the skill level of the students. Strategies are employed to ensure that the activity is executed as planned. Some strategies used in this activity are listen or pay attention. The learning outcomes chosen for this activity are response to simple instructions, announcements in English made in class or school, solves or shares riddles, tongue twisters, solves simple crossword puzzles, and builds word chains. For the advanced level, the learning outcomes are response to announcements and instructions made in class, school assembly, and railway station, and in other public places. Participates in different activities such as role play, poetry recitation, skit, drama, debate, speech, elocution, declamation, quiz, etc., organized by school and other organizations. The guidelines to play the activity word chains is to instruct the students to give the beginning letters for the ending letters that are called out. This is child-centric as the child is the one who initiates this activity. For example, when the teacher says the word ending at, the student can say bat, cat, mat. This is holistic because it is auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. When the teacher gives the sound it, they could say sit, pit, or fit. So the student will form a word using the beginning letters that they think of and the ending letters given by the teacher. The student will call out the word. The teacher appreciates the children for their good job. And for the higher levels, the student will explain the common sound pattern shared by these letters. In terms of cognitive, the students are thinking about the words and hence this activity is cognitive. With respect to multisensory, you can see that the student uses different senses in order to participate in this activity. Differentiation is used because different levels of words are used for the students by the teacher, and this also helps in formative assessment. Let's take a closer look at this activity. It focuses on word families like at, in, at, etc. These are foundational requirements for learners. By gamifying the application of this concept, the learners will learn while they play. Please access the FLN resources provided in the document. It gives you the list of words that you can use for the various levels: below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. The rubrics checks if the student selects the appropriate beginning sound, and for the advanced level, if the student is able to explain the word pattern. We use reflective questions to help the student think about the process of meaning making. In the long run, this metacognitive act will help the student build words independently as they are aware of some of the process of word formation. Some questions you can ask are, when the teacher called out a word ending, what was your initial thought process for choosing letters to add? What other ways could you think of to build words from endings? Or how do you think practicing this activity could help you with your spelling and vocabulary in the future?
The next activity is clapping syllables. The students are either going to be the beginner level or the advanced level. This activity employs strategies like listen, pay attention, identify, among others. This addresses the following learning outcomes. For grade 4, it deals with comprehension. For grade 5, it deals with reading independently. For grade 6, it deals with participating in activities like group discussion and debate. For grade 7, it deals with inferring unfamiliar words. These are the guidelines to execute this activity. Sit in a circle, pass the ball to a student. That student will now speak. This activity is multisensory as it uses more than 2 senses. Here, the student uses tactile senses, visual senses, and auditory senses. The teacher calls out a word according to the competency level of the student. She can therefore differentiate her instructions as per the student. The student breaks the word down by syllables, demonstrating understanding by clapping for each syllable. This is experiential as the student demonstrates his understanding, making his learning visual. This action can also act as an assessment, as you can check for the accuracy of syllabic segmentation. Here is another example. When the teacher calls out the word banana, the student thinks banana. The student then breaks the word banana into its syllable, which are b, na, na. Thus goes the activity for clapping syllables. SLN directed activities are child-centric, just like the multisensory activities that have been designed for the student in this module. These multisensory activities help recall what is taught with ease. They also create better letter-sound connections. These activities are more engaging and capture the learner's attention longer. You can use the document that will give you words with different number of syllables that can help categorize students into below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. The rubrics checks on accuracy of syllable segmentation. Based on the student's performance, they will be slotted as below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced.
Hopscotch is a loved game for many. You may use this to your advantage by incorporating some phonics in it. The learning objective evaluates the student based on their ability to identify the word. The learning outcomes addressed response to simple instructions, announcements in English made in class or school. Reads storybooks, news items, headlines, advertisements, etc. independently. And for the advanced level, participates in activities like role play, group discussion, debate, poems, recitation, songs, jokes, riddles, and tongue twisters. Uses appropriate grammatical forms in communication like noun, pronoun, verb, etc. The setup you require for the game-based activity hopscotch is to draw the grid on the ground and place the cards with words in each box. The teacher calls out one word from the words in the box. The student will have to hop on the words that leads to the word called out. This is a multisensorial activity with visual, auditory, touch, and even kinesthetic elements. So the student will move from cat, pig, bat, and pot. The core action for the student is to say the word that they land on in the square. This is an act of verbal identification and labeling. They are naming the word they see. This is an expressive and demonstrative strategy. For advanced level students, they can be asked to create a sentence using the words they have hopped on. Like, for example, the student will create a sentence like, the cat and pig played with a bat and pot. This activity specifically targets foundational literacy by focusing on verbal identification and labeling of words. This helps children connect the visual representation of a word with its spoken form. It's a crucial step in early reading. Here are some of the concepts you can explore using this activity. Segmenting, which is breaking the word into individual sounds. Blending, which is putting the sounds together to form a word. Rhyming, which is when the ending sound of the words sound alike. Or memorizing is when you learn the word as a whole. It could also be visual. Use the document provided to get a list of CVC words, high-frequency words, and simple vowel sounds. To digraphs, blends, two-syllable words, and silent E. For the proficient level, students can use multi-syllable words, R-controlled vowels, and sight words. You can further expand this to include irregular spellings and content-specific vocabulary. The reflective questions that can be asked are, what are challenging about finding the right word, and what strategy would you use to make sure you hopped to the correct one? What new ideas did you get for using words together after playing the game? The rubrics checks for word identification and accuracy. For the advanced level, it checks sentence formation.
Here is the next activity, Ping Pong Phonics. This activity will be able to identify spoken phonetic concepts like individual vowel sounds, consonant sounds, or consonant blends. Some strategies that we use are look, identify, and pinpoint. Learning outcomes read as reads small texts with comprehension for grade 4, uses a variety of nouns and pronouns to make meaningful sentences for grade 5, participates in activities like poem recitation, jokes and riddles for grade 6, and uses appropriate grammatical forms in communication using determiners, adjectives, adverbs for grade 7. Here are the guidelines for Ping Pong Phonics. Write the desired letters on the cup. These can be letters that can be used for formative assessment. The teacher gives the sound I. The activity involves a tactile element as it asks the student to throw the ball into the cup. The sounds or words called out are developmentally appropriate. The ball goes into the cup or the I cup. The advanced students will give a word with the sound to. Familiarizing the students with individual sounds and how they can use them in words goes a long way in improving reading, especially when it is used to familiarize the learners with the different rules like silent E. The support document provides a list of words that can be used to label the cups like single vowels or consonants, blends, diphthongs, or digraphs. For the advanced level, we can ask the student to create a sentence using the word with the sound. The rubrics categorizes the student's ability to recognize the sound or letter. The advanced level addresses word formation too.
Letter labels is an interesting activity which uses the strategies look, notice, label, and identify among many. Its objective is to correctly identify the initial sound and its corresponding letter. The learning outcomes addressed are reads small text, posters, charts in English with comprehension, reads storybooks, news items, headlines, advertisements independently. Advanced level participates in activities like role play, group discussion, debate, poems recitation, songs, jokes, riddles, tongue twisters, etc. Thinks critically and responds to questions based on text. The activity uses objects which are in the environment. You are required to label the objects in the environment, and this activity builds on the student's cognitive skills. It is a visual exercise where the student has an opportunity to exhibit their linguistic skills. Okay. This kinesthetic endeavor ensures that the physical part of the activity is addressed. Give the beginning sound of any object that's in the picture. This contextualization helps the student make connections between the personal experiences and the topic. The teacher calls out a sound, B. This can be used in formative assessments as the student looks around the environment trying to find objects that start with the sound. The teacher can assess the student's ability. For advanced level students, ask them to give a word the same beginning sound. Let's take a closer look. You may use multisensory activities to support learners. You may read aloud in class, and you may bring in objects or their representations to help learners learn by association. Do access the resources provided for this activity. It gives you the guidelines required to execute the activity. It addresses visibility, that all objects should be clearly visible and accessible in the room. Safety, ensure all objects are safe for the students to interact with. There are no breakable items or sharp edges. Clarity of labeling. Labels should be clearly written or printed, large enough to read, and securely attached to the corresponding object. And variety. Have a good variety of objects in the room to allow for different initial sounds. The reflective questions are: how does knowing the beginning sound of a word help you understand or remember new words? Imagine you are the teacher calling out a sound. What makes some sounds easier or harder to find objects for, and why? The rubrics is designed to observe object identification and new word generation.
Magic spoons involves blending various sounds to create a legit word. It is an interesting activity which uses the strategies look, notice, scan, create, call among others. The learning outcomes addressed in this activity are writes a few words in response to stories for grades 4, writes phrases in simple sentences as dictated by the teacher for grade 5, enacts different roles with simple dialogues for grade 6, and participates in different activities such as skit, drama, speech organized by the school for grade 7. In order to conduct this activity, you will need spoons and a sheet of paper. First step in the guideline is to invite the student to choose a spoon. Place the sheet of paper with word beginnings on the table. This activity is child-centric as it can be customized to the students in the class. Second, the student will move the spoon with the ending over the beginning words on the sheet and finds the words. The student practices the skill of encoding. This is adding sounds to create words. Third, the student will call out the words that are found. The student will receive immediate feedback, as you will be able to tell right away if the word created is legit or not. These beginning words can be tailored according to the different levels of the students, wherein the student can use multiple beginning word sheets. This brings differentiation, an important effluent requirement in class. Words like ship, sight, blight, and sight can be made using the magic spoons. And again, sleep, sheep can also be done using magic spoons. Spellings can be improved by not just using the print medium. Kinesthetic movements can also be encouraged. Therein, spellings can be improved by covering regular patterns and expectations, adding kinesthetic movements, if possible, for letters and letter sounds. The effluent resources provided will help you with the beginning sounds and ending word parts. You may customize the activity according to the levels of the students in your class. The rubrics checks for word formation accuracy. That brings us to the end of the learning cycle module on reading with phonics for beginner. Thank you, and we hope you all have a lovely time executing this in your classrooms. All the very best. Dear teachers, let us now try and understand how to navigate and find resources on our Teachopia app for our monthly requirements. The first step that you need to do is open our app. Here is the home page. At the bottom, you will find a content section. Click on it. It will lead you to a page where you can choose between curricular content and other content. Curricular content will lead you to the academic chapters, lesson plans, worksheets, and PBLs. Other content will lead you to a page like such, where clicking on Samalochana Karyagara resources will help you locate the documents that will help in the execution of this year's monthly requirements. It will lead you to a page as such. Click on the English section to get access to our Karyagara resources. Each of these Karyagara documents are mapped to each month. Karyagara 1 is mapped to the month of July's academic calendar requirements. Karyagara 2 is mapped to the August month's requirements. Karyagara 3 is mapped to the October month's requirements. Karyagara 4 to November. Karyagara 5 to December. Karyagara 6 to January, and Karyagara 7 to February. You will find QR codes provided for each chapter's lesson plan, PBL, and worksheets here. Each chapter of each grade has been provided. Here is grade 4 on the first page. Next, we have grade 5, we have grade 6, and we have grade 7. We also have a hero activity for each month for each grade, which has been given and provided for you here. Grade 4 activity has been mapped to a chapter and certain learning outcomes. Here is grade 5. The same can be executed in your classrooms with daily life application provided as well at the end. Grade 6 is also given to you with its learning objectives and the execution plan. Pictures are provided for you to be able to visualize how these activities might look in your classrooms. We have grade 7 also mapped to grammar elements or such. The document ends with certain worksheet questions that you could use for assessment. All of this can be found in the chapter or the curriculum content section. For more such resources containing explainer videos, lesson plans, activity ideas, and so on and so forth, do download our app called Teachopia.